There's a book called Coddling of the American Mind that came out in the last few years. There was a link to it in the library, so you can actually read it online if you like the OSU library. Several things are going on in that book, and the one that I wanted to address here is the idea of helicopter parenting versus free-range parenting. According to those authors, we don't allow kids to have a lot of free time anymore. Everything is really highly structured, and helicopters are always around to fix whatever problems because they're super involved in their kid's life, too involved. And they don't want their kids to make mistakes. So those kids don't get to learn from their mistakes. They take mistakes out of the equation, and they don't have the opportunity to learn from them. Consequently, they don't develop independence. Another example, kind of a variation of helicopter parenting is bulldozing parenting, where they will take the terrain and make it all flat. They will remove all problems in front of a kid so that the kid just has this easy path to walk through. They have no problems to encounter. From a developmental standpoint, this is bad. You want to encounter problems that you want to solve for yourself to create autonomy. Struggle is what creates strong people, not lack of struggle. It's like sharpening a blade. You want to get sharp. The other side of this, the idea of helicopter parenting, the other side is what's called free-range parenting. So like you got a kid that's like 8 years old, you let them ride their bike out around the neighborhood. You give them time to go out in their environment and figure things out. In this culture, there's becoming a growing, like a lack of time where you get time to try to figure things out. At 2 o'clock, we're doing this. At 3 o'clock, we're doing this. At 4 o'clock, we're doing this. And so there's no free time, no time to think and figure things out. I think a lot of that parenting, the helicopter parenting, it begins here in Erickson's second stage. Instead of letting kids figure it out, we rush them around, we try to completely control their environment, and we don't give them a chance to fully engage with autonomy. We don't give them the opportunity to fail. Because failure, again, it kind of provides them the opportunity to learn from their mistakes. Failure is how you learn. And then these kids that don't get to experience that at this age and even later on, I get to see them as college students when their parents haven't let them be independent and haven't let them learn on themselves, and they're not good. It doesn't help them when parents do that for them. They think they're trying to help them and protect them, but it's the opposite. When kids have had all the obstacles removed, when they come to me, I'm not a surrogate parent. I'm a professor, and so I don't want to remove all the problems for you. I want you to figure it out on your own, because that's what you're going to have to do at your job. There's, we're in a transition from, high school to college to your work, where you're going to have to do things on your own. So if you've been around people that have fixed every problem you've had for 20 years, and then you get here and then you expect all your professors to fix your problem. The problem is a lot of professors are about 40-ish, and so they have kids that are about 20-ish, and so they are used to doing the helicopter parenting, so they do helicopter professoring, and it's wrong from a developmental standpoint of view. I do think it's related to also a generational difference. So I'm Gen X, and so here's a slide from another book that I have. Some characteristics from each generation. So for Gen X, live with uncertainty. That's how life was when I was growing up. Things were a little weird. We were going through kind of a cultural, it was a weird thing, and there was always the threat of nuclear war. Our parents didn't get along anymore. They started getting divorces, and we had to take care of ourselves because we had, a single parent. And so he or she, they weren't always around, and so you have to take care of yourself. There's a term for it called Latch Key Kids. Nobody was home when we got out of school. And this was recently, in the last year or two, was on a news station. So they had a little generation guidelines defined by birth years, and they go through the silent generation, baby boomers, millennial, post-millennials. Interesting to note here, if you look closely at it, so baby boomers end at 64, millennials start at 81, Gen X, they forgot to put us in their little chart. And so that's this is indicative of how Gen X has been treated their entire lives. The forgotten generation, that we were just left on our own to have to deal with things. A good example of this, when my sister got in trouble at school, I was older than her, 8 years older. I would have to go to her school and talk to the principal because her parents were not around to deal with those problems. So that's how things were from, this Gen X perspective. And so one of the things I think that has happened is that a lot of people come from this area, and so they were Latch Key Kids. They were part of this Gen X, and so their parents weren't there maybe as much as they should have, and so they have done what's an overcorrection. They went way too far to the other end, where they are highly invested in their kids' lives to the point where their lives don't even matter. They're just concerned about what their kids are doing, and their entire focus of their entire lives is what their kids are up to. My hope is that now it is starting to kind of swing back, maybe a little bit more towards the middle. Okay. You might think about that. I might make it a discussion question. If I don't, you could talk about it. What kind of parents did you have? Were they more helicopter, more free range? And how do you think it affected your development? Long story short, let your kids be independent. Don't let them just do whatever they want willy-nilly, but at least try to foster a sense of independence. Be next to them, but don't hold their hand through everything is the point of all that, if you want them to get through that Erikson stage. So that's Erikson and helicopter parenting. Next thing we'll talk about is attachment styles.